How have you been keeping during lockdown? As I said at the beginning, you should be training for the Paralympics 2020 at the moment, shouldn't you?
I think I'd start by saying that competing in elite sport is much easier than trying to teach Key Stage 1 English and maths. So, yeah.
Piece of cake, yeah.
Absolute piece of cake. Yeah, so it's been a really unusual year. You know, we were sat as a squad back in February at a tournament called the Quad Nations in Leicester, and at that moment, our CEO was saying to us in a meeting that we might not be going to the test event for 2020 in Japan in March, and we were all saying, "Nah, that's never going to happen. Of course, we'll go." And the advice he was getting at the time was that it'd probably be okay and that we'd be able to go. Quite quickly, that didn't happen, and then quite quickly from that, the entire event got postponed.
I'm guessing you want to, the aim was to peak in a couple of weeks' time. How do you effectively get back into the mindset to delay that, and then you've got to do it all again in a year's time?
So I'll be honest, when it first came out, when this all first started happening, of course, I'll just frame this, it was the right thing to postpone the games. Obviously, sports and everything, people have been through some really difficult situations. When this first started all happening, I didn't think the games would get postponed. You don't just postpone the biggest sporting event in the entire world. That doesn't normally ever happen. Like clockwork, every 4 years, Olympics, Paralympics, move on to the next cycle. It just doesn't happen. So in my heart, I thought it would still happen, but maybe behind closed doors. So it wasn't until I actually got the phone call, we were called to a meeting with our CEO, and he broke the news to us. And I must be honest, I was pretty miserable for a couple of weeks. I mean, my entire lifestyle, everything I was doing was built around peaking at this moment in August. So I hadn't drunk any alcohol I was having a dry year. Since now, I've drunk quite a lot of alcohol. But for that moment, I hadn't drunk anything. I was having a dry year. I was making plans to see my family because I was going to be away so much, international tournaments, etc. And then for it just to stop was a really peculiar feeling. One of the things I had to do when you speak about mindset was almost demotivate myself.
Okay.
So if you think about training at the top level, what you try and do is you try and peak in tournaments so you're your absolute fittest, but you need to be as fresh as possible. So it kind of works like this. I use my mountain analogy. On the build up to a massive tournament, it's like you're climbing up the mountain, you're putting lots of really heavy, hard work in to make yourself as fit as possible. Just before the tournament, it's like you go over a flat summit. So you're doing really sharp, short, intense work. So you're as fresh as possible. You're getting as much recovery as possible. You still keep that fitness. And then when you go into the major tournament, it's like you're running downhill. You're your absolute fittest. So you're as fit as you can be when you're competing against, on that world stage. So I was 2/3 of the way up that mountain. I completed a lot of my training with Southampton Solent University with their sports science team. So I was in there 3-4 times a week with S&C coach, nutritionist, sports psychologist, physiotherapist, all these people, massive support team around me, helping me to peak at this tournament. And then it's not happening. Yeah. So I had to sort of demotivate myself. My training changed almost overnight. I went from doing lots of really intense power-based work to just much more easier ticking over cardio.